Bridges to the Cure program manager. Thanking you for joining in to JFL Live.
Hey, everybody, it's JFL Live. I'm on the north side. We're going to have a really good show today. It is Tony G, Jacksonville Duval's finest in the house. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce Johnny Jaguar, and then we're going to work ourselves around the table. Johnny Jaguar, what's up, baby?
Oh, man, living the dream out here in Florida, a little cold. I have to bring my winter jacket out here. Man, I think it's like 40 degrees today. Outside. I've seen that, man. You need a hat and gloves. I'm excited today. We got a very special guest. Got a ton of questions for him. But, man, look at Big Hen. He looks pretty festive today. Big Hen, why you all dressed up?
Yeah, baby, you know what time. It's your boy Big Hen. Thank you for coming on JFL Live. We are ready. We got a great guest today. It is Pro Bowl week, baby. Oh yeah, baby. You know who I'm for. I'm AFC all the way, man. But hey, but man, we just want to introduce our guest, man, Dr. Keith. And Dr. Keith, forgive me, I am not good how to pronounce names, and I'm not gonna mess your name up. I'm gonna say Dr. Keith.
Carodine.
There we go.
Thank you, John.
Hey, Dr. Keith, introduce yourself, man.
Hey, hi everybody. I'm Keith Carodine. I'm owner and head trainer at Peak Strength and Fitness. And before that, I was a senior associate athletic director for academic affairs for the University of Florida Gators. So hello everybody, and I just want to say, go Gators. If you're a Seminole fan, if you're a Tennessee fan, sorry, I got nothing for you.
Hey, wait a minute now. Don't be talking about my Seminoles.
So that was gonna be my first.
I didn't still play football.
So that was my first question for you, Doc. So that's my first question for you. So you, as admin, you take the rivalry seriously just as much as the players, right?
Oh yeah. We you know, somebody come walking into my office with a red and gold shirt on. I said, son, you gonna have to go home and change. This school's colors are blue and orange. I don't know where you coming from. And I'm not talking about Tennessee orange either.
So how is game week for when y'all got a rival? Because I know we, man, Coach Stuckey, man, we in the weight room trying to get bicep on. We trying to do this. They playing the Gator song, trying to get people hyped up and go crazy. What was it like in Florida for y'all?
Oh,
you know,
well,
what you
the administrators are just as uptight because, you know, you talk about game day security. We would have meetings. Okay, we want everybody on the midfield stripe, so there's no unnecessary interaction between the teams. So we're talking about how to handle the pregame when both teams come out to warm up, how we're going to handle after the game, locker room. So, you know, we're trying to prevent any situations.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
So how do you come up with
how
stuff
you
like
get
that?
fired up on that field? You're gonna get a little too hyped, and so they have us lined up out there to keep y'all calm down. But it's a lot of tension. Everybody gets into it. You know, like we would have a staff, you know, dinner sometimes on Fridays, and man, people would be blue and orange out on Friday afternoon before the game. We'd have a pizza luncheon, particularly if it was a home game. You'd have a staff pizza luncheon, and everybody be there, have their buttons on, game day buttons, blue and orange stuff, fired up and ready to go. You think some of them get ready to play? I got so fired up one day we were gonna play Tennessee. I was like, hey, let me play. I could go in there and hit somebody one good time. I got one good look in me.
Hey man,
So what?
Go ahead, John.
So what? So what's it take for like these big rivals? Like you said, planning. So I guess explaining your job, because that's my thing. Like, what do you do as, you know, the admin, you know, senior athletic director?
So part of my main responsibility was I monitored all the academic eligibility and student development program. And then on game days, I'm at the pass gate for game days, and then making sure that, you know, everybody can line up and play. That's a very important thing. So my primary role was to make sure that folks are making academic progress so they can line up and play. Game days, we meet with recruits, meet with parents. As I mentioned, part of my duty before the game was to be at the pass gates and make sure nothing's going on out there at the pass gates. I'm out there with the sheriffs during the actual half times and pregame out on the field to make sure that, everything that we keep peace, have order. And so there's a lot of planning go in. And then when you talk about the game operations folks, which are my colleagues, they're interfacing with, Gainesville Police Department, Letcher County Police Department, to check on safety protocols. So there's a lot behind the scenes that goes into planning an event. It just doesn't happen like the day before. I mean, there's game operations meetings throughout the week because, you just want people to have a good experience and you want people to have a good experience safely. And then there's always a rehash of what happened the week before, what could have been done better. A good friend, Chip Howard, who was actually senior social athletic director in charge of operations, keeps a journal about like, hey, what could we have done better at this game? And so people take it very seriously.
So have it ever been an outbreak for you guys at Florida? Because I'm trying to think if we ever had one. I've seen altercations with the players, but has it ever been y'all had to hold them all back?
Yeah. Hello. There was a situation years ago between Florida State and Florida at our home game, and the situation kind of got out of hand, and in fact, some people got hurt. I remember one of our strength coaches actually getting hit in the head with a helmet.
Oh my God.
And so then we really started taking this serious about, because, those rivalry games, there's a lot of tension. Yes. So then we started having more of an administrative presence on the field during pregame warmup. So yeah, that has happened before, years ago, early 2000s. And since that decision was made, during the time I was there, there wasn't any more of those scuffles like that, right, because everybody was just like, okay, we're going to put this. And of course, coaches are talking to their players like, hey, this is not what we're about. Let's do this. And both sides, because I'm sure they had the same discussions at Florida State, same discussions at Tennessee, all the rivalry. They're like, hey, we don't need that. We don't want that. But just to be sure, you got to have your people in place to make sure it doesn't happen. Yeah.
Well, Florida State fans don't act like that. We're very calm and docile.
Yeah, whatever.
But seriously, yeah. But seriously, when you start talking about things like that sometimes people do get out of hands, fans, players. What do you say to the players before a crazy game like Florida State or Tennessee? I mean, what's the first thing you say to them? We already talked about the gameplay and all of that stuff. What do you say to them personally as far as, hey, don't get out of the game, don't do nothing stupid on your way through the tunnel? I mean, how do you handle all these different attitudes?
Well, that's the coach's responsibility. The coaches do that. Our coaches did very good. Our coaches did a very good job of saying, like, after we had a couple those incidents in the early 2000s, saying like, we're just not going to be about that.
Right.
And right. So the coaching staff, I mean, they're with the coaches on a day-to-day basis. As administrators, you can help reinforce what the coaches are telling the players. And Absolutely. Then when we're on the field with them, hey, we're telling them, hey, get back, let's move back. But it starts with, in those situations, it starts with the coaches, because they're with the players on a day-to-day basis. And so as an administrator, you have conversations with the coaches and saying like, hey, we're going to take these measures. We're not going to do these things in the locker room. We're going to have these things in the pregame. But it's very important that the coaches help maintain that situation.
Yeah, right.
Now let's remember, we're just not talking football, Tony. Am I right? So how many kids did you manage?
So I was in charge of. In my role, I was in charge of overseeing the entire staff that provided support for all the student athletes.
How many is that? Like
At Florida at the time period I was at Florida from 92 to 2017, we were up to about 500 student athletes.
Whew.
About 500 student athletes, yeah. And so fortunately we had good staff. Yeah. But there was folks who more than one time we had conversations with me directly in the office. They were very interesting discussions at times. I remember one, I guess it got too loud and I saw somebody tiptoeing and reaching to my door, close the door. She's like, we can hear you cussing down the hallway, so we're gonna close the door. We're like, I don't cuss, what are you talking about? So, but yeah, so it kind of, I usually, when I get involved, it's usually before something gets real crazy. Right. But then again, I like to, when I think back on it, I like to think that I was probably like friends to a lot of them because I still have a lot of former athletes. We're still in contact, like on Facebook. In fact, there's a couple of former athletes who work out at my gym.
Wow.
They come in and then because they were used to see me work out at lunchtime all the time. Because my whole thing at lunchtime, I'd be in the weight room and I'd be doing my workout, doing my thing, and they were looking at me like, what in the world is going on? This dude, how old are you, Doc? None of your business. And so we're going on doing the workout. And so I think that was probably the most fun I had because I got to interact with folks. Hey, we're all in here together. Yeah. You got your sweats on, I got my sweats on. Hey,
that's
ain't
crazy.
No authority. I'm just in here working out with you all. I don't want to talk about that. Yeah. But every now and then, if I knew you didn't go to class, I'd go and I'd whisper in that strength coach ear, you know what? I didn't see so-and-so when I walked by his class today.
So I think that probably helped you with your job too, because you bridged the gap.
Definitely, yeah.
Because if I don't ever talk to you, I know I'm in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh man, he's about to cuss me out. He's gonna be like, you disappointed the program, get your grades up. Like, you're gonna be in a bad position. But you bridge that gap where I feel comfortable coming to you since I see you all the time.
Yes. Yeah. So I tried to not sit behind the desk. Tried to go out and interact with them at the practice. There's sometimes I might drive. There was open practice. I'd drop by practice and go see practice, and then or they'd have a function, go and see that. But it's just like you want to create a rapport with people, a trust level, because the one thing I want them to understand is like I was telling somebody, I don't want to have a conversation with you about like why you didn't do something. I want to talk to you more about like, hey, what are we gonna do when your playing career is over? And I would speak to them in terms that I would never tell somebody, hey, well, you're never going to go pro. And it's kind of going like, well, because the way I look at it, I'm trying to be good. If I'm trying to be real good at something, and if I'm an athlete, the epitome of me being good is the one day get paid for it and being a pro. Right. And so I would never say like, hey, you can't think about that. It's like, no, you need to think about that, but you also need to realize one day your body is going to say you can't do this anymore. And so at that point, you've got to be able to pick up another career. Because I said, I hate to tell you, but the NFL pension don't kick in until you're around 50-something.
Exactly. Right. Hey, I was going.
And then they go like, what? I go like, yeah. I said, let me. Here's a copy of the collective bargaining agreement. Here it is right here. Because I would have one. I said, here it is right here. You just read the collective bargaining agreement and go like, okay, let's say you play at 22. The average pro career at that time when I was working there was like 3.5 years. So let's say at 26, you're done. So I said, from 26 to 52, what you gonna do? I said, I hope you made a whole bunch of money. But see, those are the kind of conversations we had. Right. I said, oh, and if you bought that whole bunch of money, I hope you didn't buy 4 or 5 cars. Hope you bought some rental property or something with that money. So, but that's what we try to do. Try to talk to them like in real terms, not from some like, hey, you need to think about this young man and this one. No, let's be real. And
that's what I think of administrators like that, young man. You need to do it like this, that. Like that's what I think. Like,
yeah, I didn't see that Tennessee. I love Tennessee, but that's just one thing I didn't see.
Yeah.
I would enjoy sitting down with you to talk about that and knowing where you know how to do it. I just didn't have it. We didn't have it. It was there. I guess they didn't offer it and come up to us and stuff like that. So, you know, that's good to hear. That was good to hear for me because I wish I had more of that.
Yeah, well, you know, it's just we'd have some fun talks, John, I'm sure.
Yeah, we would. Oh man.
You see, they always have the most fun talks with the ballers because it'd be like, okay now.
No, I wanted to tell y'all that story because when you say y'all used to go and check on and see if they in class.
Yeah.
In my rookie year, I used to sit up in the front.
Yeah.
That was just what I was told and how I did in high school. And I just noticed everybody else sit in the back.
Oh,
and then the next thing you know, I turn around and they gone. So I get out and I get to the weight room. Where y'all leave? Oh man, AD, he checked the room, man, and we gone. We out of there. I said, oh man, y'all are not doing that. I said, that's bad influence already. I see guys doing it. I was like, no, man, I'm trying to play. I'm trying to stay on the field.
Yeah. See, but hey, John, but see, what people don't realize is, folks didn't realize that they were set up because my freshman year, my freshman year in school, man, living in LA, I was going to Venice Beach, Santa Monica Beach during class time. They're coming back from practice. So I told them straight out, Brother Gay, said, hey, y'all trying to run something on somebody who's done this game, did this game back in the 70s when he had an afro. This ain't happening. Let me tell you. And I said, let me tell you, I bet this is where you went. And they, what? How'd you know that? Hey, believe me, we used to be your age one time too.
Exactly. I tell my kids that all the time. You used to be your age.
Oh yeah. And so, you know, so we know all the tricks. And so what we would do, John, because we knew people would do that. They'd go there the first 10, and then we circle back around.
They thought they had it, man.
So who gets the look in class? Are you doing the stars like John, or are you doing the guy, the punter that never plays?
When I was working at Florida, we had a system like you're a freshman and sophomore. It was pretty much, particularly in your general education pattern, but this is the system we had in place through 2017. Before I left, if you're a freshman and sophomore, basically everyone takes, unless you're like in really the real hard sciences or engineering, something like that, basically everyone is taking, no matter what the student, athlete, non-athlete, basically the same general education pattern. And so basically what we would do, we would hire teaching assistants, and they would actually attend class and stay there the whole time, the freshman and sophomore year.
Wow.
And then for what we call our usual suspects, sometimes we would just do walk-arounds, okay, at random times. And then the great thing, like we had in place, is when we had a freshman orientation class, because I was able to get appointed as an adjunct professor in the College of Education. And so there would be an orientation class that all, Florida students could take. And so I would teach one of those sections, and we'd have all the freshman student athletes in that class. And so that actually helped me get to know every student athlete while I was there. And so then, we talk about attendance. And then, boy, if you showed up to my freshman orientation class and I had attendance report, and you walked in and I was doing this, as you walked in like, oh, yeah, okay. I remember one day I said, hey, we're going to ask so-and-so to come to the front and tell us all about the War 1812 that was discussed in that class yesterday.
Man.
Crickets, there we go.
So the transition.
Yeah.
Can we I'm finna,
yeah. Oh yeah.
We're gonna transition to what made you want to leave Florida? What, just.
Well, it's funny, when I started in athletics, I was an assistant basketball coach.
Okay.
Part-time basketball coach. So I played at Cal State LA, and then after Cal State LA, I started as a graduate assistant, and I'd always run like preseason program, preseason conditioning.
Oh, okay.
Then I was at New Mexico for about 4 years and did the same thing. Part of my role there as an assistant basketball coach, preseason conditioning. So I've always had an interest in that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to Fresno State and got into administration, and then got further in administration and got pulled out of coaching. I almost got back into coaching again, but decided against it.
Right.
And so then at Florida, it's kind of like I was still young enough at that time. I was, when I left, I was 58, and I was still young enough and felt good that hey, we just wanted to do something else. And I still look at myself as being in a helping situation, because even though personal training in a gym, we're still trying to look out for people's welfare. And so some of the conversations to have with people in the gym is more than just about, sweat equity. It's like, okay, hey, I've been struggling with this person doing this, how do I do this? Or, somebody maybe, like we have some grad students that train with us, and they may be having a situation back on campus, and I'll say, hey, why don't you go and talk to the person this way? And so we kind of look at our gym as more than just a gym.
Yeah.
Particularly when I share the building with my kung fu teacher, who and a karate teacher. So we have martial arts in the building too. And my kung fu teacher is actually a lay minister also. And so you'll find not only sweat, but some talking about, okay, what you want to do, and have you thought about this? So I still view it as being in a helping situation. I'm just helping people in a different way. But it's amazing how some of these life discussions still come up in a gym. And it's kind of like, I just kind of took my act to another place. And me, you can ask my wife, if you leave me in the gym, I'll work out all day long.
So you miss Florida at all? I mean, do you miss the kids or is your gym members replace the kids?
No, I haven't replaced, because there's some great relationships. There's a couple of people I used to work with in Florida. They still come out and work out with me at the gym. And so it's kind of like, it's good to see them when they come by. Like one day out of the blue, Patrick Young just dropped by. And it's like, oh, Patrick, good to see you. Willie Rogers dropped by one day. We've got one of the swimmers. He comes and he works out right now, been lifting. So it's, Enzo Martinez. And so there's, I still have some connection there, but, I'm kind of like, I'm not, this is kind of dangerous. My friend who's a psychologist says, you really lack empathy and compassion. So I'm really like, I crushed him this morning. He just had to put that in. But I'm kind of like the person who's like, hey, I really enjoyed that time, but I don't spend a lot of time looking back, because there's still a lot of stuff I want to do.
Yeah.
I keep looking back and thinking like, did I enjoy those relationships? Yeah, I enjoyed those relationships, but I'm still have some of those relationships, but I'm developing new relationships. So as far as like sentimentalism, I'm not that guy. I'm kind of like, what are we going to do next? And it's like, well, when they come by and see them, or they send me a message on Messenger or Facebook or, something like that, like, hey, good to hear from you, or remember this. And it's like, so yes or no. So when I see him, it sounds great, but, I'm kind of always been like a forward looking person, like, hey, it's kind of like, yeah, particularly like when you get 60 or something, you start looking like, okay, what we going to do? Because my theory is like, I don't want to be sitting in my chair talking about what happened, because, that means the clock getting shorter. I don't want, we gonna keep rolling, man. So we gonna keep rolling this thing.
Hey, so
go ahead.
So what's neat is like, somebody sent me a message, hey, I just had my third child. And I'm like, dang, am I that old already? But it's great news, It's like, so John, to answer your question, yes and no. I love that time, But I really enjoy the new time.
Right.
And a lot of people from the old time are still involved with me in the new time.
So do you ever go back? I mean, man, I didn't know you was South Central. Hey.
Oh yeah, man.
Wow.
74th and Crenshaw. There we go. Hey, you got straight out of Compton. I'm straight off of Crenshaw Boulevard.
Okay. Okay.
Wow.
Hey, Dr. Keith. Now, my first experience in California, as a group, and I was 15 years old. We go to California, and we want to experience California. Now, look, I done listened to all the Tupac. I listen to all, and then I'm like, we don't need to go here. So guess who we go? We go to Swap Meet. You know, the one right down Chris. Man, yes, man. Man, and this little dude in the wheelchair, and the little man in the wheelchair came and said, he told us, go back on the bus now. That's all he said. Leave now. Man, he had to tell me no more. I turned around, I said, we gotta go. Man, I don't know what it was, who was coming, and we had all colors. We had red. We from Nashville, Tennessee. Man, you talking about heartbeat, man. We got on that bus, man, and we got on, we see all the Crips. I think Chris was coming, I don't know, I think it was Chris. Man, I'm saying, bro, I was so scared. And then we go to the beach. I leave the bathroom. I leave the bathroom, and I'm just. And I thought the man was sleeping, man. I thought he was sleeping. Man, that man was dead.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, man, y'all! California killed me right there. I say I don't want to ever go again.
Yeah, that was your first trip?
That was my first trip.
Yeah, first trip. And they took you to the
gang and the dead person on the beach.
They took you to the Slauson Swap Meet. Whoa, boy.
Was that pretty rough?
Slauson Crenshaw? Yeah, Slauson Crenshaw's had a couple issues. Yeah.
Crenshaw Mafia.
And I thought Chinatown was gonna be better. We was cool. Hey, we in Chinatown. My goodness, man, the man got out of the car, sitting on the edge. Yeah, right there. I said, oh
yeah. Oh no.
Man, we took off. My boy had on all blue.
Oh yeah. It's like,
oh my gosh.
Sadly, sadly we can sit here and joke about it, but sadly, if you
it's real.
If you cross, I remember where I lived, the neighborhood was blue. But if I went 2 blocks southeast, I was in a red neighborhood. And so there was certain style of and color of khakis you couldn't wear, or even khakis. If you had on tan khakis and you went over to 2 blocks south, you could be confronted, because not only did they wear red, but they wore gray khakis instead of tan khakis like my guys wearing blue. So yeah, it could be depending upon. It's too bad you didn't talk to me. I'd just be like, John, you don't want to go over here. Hey, you want to go here. You go there, you just want to be in the car, keep rolling, wear black and gray, wear neutral colors, and you be good.
So that was the neutral colors, black and gray.
Yeah, man.
That was it? What other? No other color?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man.
So what were you even thinking trying to go visit that? I mean, that's the question. What were you thinking?
It was a group trip. I just gave my money to them, and I went on the trip.
Oh yeah. As soon as you just said Slauson, I'd say you just said Slauson Crenshaw. I'd go like, I don't know. I don't know if you want to go there. You want to go Slauson toward Marina Del Rey.
I tell you, man.
Yeah, but it's too bad. And it's at the beginning when we were talking to Mildred, was that her name? Yeah, doing the work in there.
Yes.
There's so much work that needs to be done in the neighborhoods, because Jacksonville, Florida, I was kind of sad to see. It was like, I'm driving around Jacksonville when my sons were playing AAU ball, and I was coaching in AAU, and we drive around Jacksonville to go to the games, and so my sons, they've already grown up in Florida, so they had never really even seen parts of South Central LA. So I'm driving around some areas in Jacksonville, and they're like, Dad, what's going on? And I'm like, And to me, I'm like, oh, nothing. We going to the game. And so to me, it's no different than like driving around Manual Arts High School or Crenshaw High School or Washington High School in South Central LA. Looked at me, but it's kind of like then I start hearing more about Jacksonville having like the same kind of problems, and it's kind of like that in and most of the city areas, and sadly that stuff is kind of spread to even the rural areas if we're not careful.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. That's why I get involved. We get involved a lot because a lot of people want to ignore what's going on, and if you ignore it, it don't go away.
No, it won't go away. No, and see, I would hope we thought everyone had learned the lesson across the country what happened in Los Angeles, California. See, in Los Angeles, California, in 1971 or 72, the Los Angeles Times posted an article about the formation of Crips and Bloods and who was who and why and how they got their name, and people wrote it off as an isolated South Central LA issue that would go away just like the gang problem in the 50s. Well, the gang problem in the 50s didn't go away. All those folks who were gang members in the 50s, the Mexican gangs, the Latin gangs, well, they had kids, and now you got third and fourth generations of those gangs. Same way with, blue and red gangs. You got people who are generations of that stuff. And so it was totally ignored, and no one did anything. And they cut programs, after school programs and basketball programs and these cutbacks. So you got all these guys walking around, nothing to do. And then as men, and then some of us men, we weren't doing our job, and also in making sure that we help raise our kids. And it's just, but it was ignored, and that should have been a lesson. Fast forward to 1988, I'm sitting there watching CNN. There's a rival gang shootout in Westwood, California. Now Los Angeles, and you're familiar with Westwood, California, that's where UCLA is located. Now all of a sudden, boom, LA has a gang problem. Well, the homeowners in South Central told you that in 71, 72, and you all said it would blow away. It's like trying to tell you it ain't gonna blow away unless people do something about it.
So what about for Florida? You said rural. Did you guys have gang problems, at Florida with the players? Did you have to kind of do any kind of coping and stuff like that?
I'm sure that there were players who came from areas. I mean, there were players who came from areas who had friends who were probably gang members. I mean, it's like, you have players from Washington, D.C., you have players from, South Florida. South Florida's got a different type of gang. So I'm sure there are people, I'm positive. I mean, there are people who came with folks who were practically in a gang. And so fortunately, when they got on campus, they realized that the gang is Florida Gators and that you need to play, and that stuff needs to go there. And so, were there active gang members? I really don't think so. But I think because of where we grew up, if I was playing in LA, I'm playing in Cal State LA, all my friends on all my neighborhood was with a certain group. And so because they're my friends, if they would come to the games and watch me play, which a couple of them did, people may have thought that I was affiliated, and really I wasn't affiliated at all. I was just trying to play ball. And back in the day, if you were a ball player, they would tell you, man, you need to go on and get away from here.
Wow.
You don't need to, you need to go on and get away from here. You need to take care of it. The dynamics kind of changed a little bit.
Yeah, I think that the dynamics have changed a lot, especially, obviously, nobody's oblivious to the fact that with the internet, it puts a new spin on everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so, but what you see more and more now is you do see more athletes coming out of South Central. You do see more coming out of Duval County. Mm-hmm. They've always been there.
Yeah, always been there.
They've always been there. We've always had good athletes in those areas. We talk about this all the time. And like you say, we talk about it, but a lot of people don't want to talk about it. And that's the fact that in every city you go to, that exists.
Oh, it exists. It's there.
Kansas City, everywhere you go, it's how the the older generation and the fathers stand up and mothers stand up and deal with it.
Yeah.
And then the colleges handle it very well. I will give Florida this. Florida handles it very well. No matter where you come from in the world, in Florida, when you get to Florida, Florida pulls that out of you and say, hey, I know you're from here, but now you're a Gator.
Yeah.
That's the only gang you're associated with. And they get rid of all that pretty quick.
That's a very direct question. You know, it's kind of like somebody phrased something a certain way, and I'm not going to name any of the gangs, but you have a certain. I was fooling around with one person one day, and I said, just trying to develop rapport with one freshman, and I said, "Hey, cuz, how you doing?" And he go like, "Why I got to be like that?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, no problem, no disrespect. I know where you're from. It's cool. I'm just trying to get." He's like, "Oh, okay." And so he still kind of had that edge because that's where. Yeah. But you just got to talk to people directly, like, "Oh, okay, I got you, no problem. We understand where you're coming from." But then we had the conversation. It's like, "Hey, man, well, that, you may have your homies when you go back home, but when we're here," I said, "when you go back home," I said, "here's something that's gonna be interesting." I said, "Some of your buddies, may be a little jealous."
Yes.
Some of them may be a little jealous because you're trying to do something. Yeah. And I can remember vividly a conversation I was having with a friend of mine, with one of my boys back in the day. And I think I was in my second year as a graduate assistant coach. And he said, "Yo, man, you were playing ball in a whole bit, but I'm just kind of disappointed in you." I'm like, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, we grew up boys in the whole bit, and just." And I said, like, "What are you getting at?" So he never kind of really said what he was getting at, but I understood. And so to give you some idea, he says, "Well, yeah, man, let's stay in touch." He says, "But when you call me, don't ask for Jones, ask for Johnson." So that kind of gives you an idea what's going on. But he was kind of like, it was like, even though I was doing something positive, I wasn't, I didn't make it as a professional basketball player. I wasn't good enough. I had to make myself a decent college player. But, here it is. I'm like doing this thing. I said, "Well, hey, man, I'm trying to do this now, this now." And sometimes those guys go home and, those guys may be a little jealous or just not, be into that somebody's really trying to take their life in a different direction. And that's tough.
Right.
It's tough. And people gotta recognize it. That's tough. And I can remember working with somebody, and every summer we would just like try to encourage him, "Hey, just stay here and go to summer school."
Right. Yeah.
Because we knew exactly what was up in his neighborhood. And in fact, I remember this is when I was working at Fresno State. And this boy grew up like 5 minutes from my house. And so it's like, "Yo, man, you just need to stay up here this summer. You need to stay up here as much as you can."
Your job had a lot of psychology involved in it too.
I'd like to think of it more as common sense.
Yeah.
but yeah. So, hey, thank you, John. We can make me into psychologist, but it's you can't how can I say it? You can't kind of like project how you think somebody should be because they're from a certain area, how you think they should be when they live there. You got to kind of like look at each person as their own person, and I try to like cookie cutter them, and it's kind of like you just can't do that. So if you want to call me a psychologist, I appreciate that.
I mean, hey, it sounds like because you're breaking down, but it's crazy like how much like interaction and the player development you guys have. Like instead of just grades and making the school money and performing on the field, you deep down like the interaction is crazy. And like John said, like he didn't have that in Tennessee. Like, man, that's craziness. Like how great you guys ran that program.
Yeah. So that was part of when I was there. I wanted to do something different, and so I would tell would tell people, I said, our job, I would talk to our staff, our job is when people come here, have them start thinking about to begin with the end in mind, what they want to be after they leave here in 4 or 5 years, what they want to be when they're 30. I said, you asking somebody 18 years old, where do you want to be at 65? That's crazy. I said, I just, hey, because someone asked me when I'm 17, 18, what I want to be on 60, I'd be like, man, I don't know. Shoot, maybe a couple cars, cash in the bank. I don't know, but type of, you get, and we were telling this freshman first time, hey, think about what do you want? Okay, a basic question. This is what we used to ask them. What do you want me to tell people about you after you leave here?
Ooh, yeah, that's deep.
And so it's like, hey, I said, you all, I said, what happens to you, how people describe you really has nothing to do with us. It has to do with kind of decisions you make. And one thing I would tell people, I said, you're never going to hear, you could go back and ask players, any of them, male, female. I said, you will never hear me say, you better not do this, you better not do that. You will hear me say, well, if you do A, these things could happen. If you do B, these things could happen. So now that you have this information, what kind of decisions you make? Now you need to understand that the decisions that you make are really going to determine how I describe your experience here to people after you leave the university. And they're like, I said, well, that's pretty simple. Your decisions determine your destiny. Don't nothing happen.
Hey, I hope everybody got that. You got to rewind this film to hear that again. I mean, it's basically telling them the pros and cons. I'm gonna tell you the pros, I'm gonna tell you the cons, and I'm gonna give it to you.
Yeah, make a decision.
I ain't gonna say, no, you better not. No, don't do that. Do exactly what you just said, and it does. I don't know what it is. It's just better. You're not trying to control me. You're giving me this. You're giving me that. Now,
because it's your choice.
Yes.
You have to live. One of the most valuable lessons I learned from Uncle of mine was something happened to me, and he went, "What you want me to do? That's your fault." I was like, "What?" He goes, "That was your fault."
Yeah.
Okay. He said, you decided to, not do that. It's just like, like I was telling somebody about free throws or being a bad shooter. And so I'd ask him, I said, when I was trying to be a good player, a decent player, I'd go and I would try to make 100 shots every day. I said, not just shoot 100 shots, try to make 100 shots every day so I could be a better shooter. And I go like, now, if I didn't do that and I didn't shoot well in the game, whose fault was that? My fault.
Right.
I said, okay.
Right.
Now, and then we'd break it down to them in class. It's like, okay, you're not good at math. We're providing you a tutor and all this other extra help. And it's just like practice. I can't be good at any skill unless I go to practice.
That's right.
Allen Iverson would never want to hear this, but unless I practice, I can't refine that skill, no matter what it is. If it's a math problem, a geometry problem, or it's a stunt, a line stunt, or run a play, unless I practice it and put the time in, I can't master it. So if I don't put the time in, if I decide not to put the time in, well, it's your fault you didn't get in the game.
That's accountability.
Yeah. And so they're like, look at me like, and so it was funny. They would do it. They'd miss, somebody would miss something. They think I'm gonna scream and holler, and I'm kind of going like, oh, okay, that's what you want to do. I said, if you don't pass that, then that means you can't get in that major, and that means this bowl game coming up that you're not gonna play the bowl game. And guess what happens? You don't play the bowl game. All those bowl gifts I'm going to lock up in the closet in my office. John, you'll be laughing. There's a
Yeah, you know what? You want them bowl gifts. Them bowl gifts.
Hey, people wouldn't go to study hall or go to class. That's okay. I'll hold the bowl gifts. Hey, when I left in 2017, there were still bowl gifts up in the storage room.
Oh, man, you got everything up there.
But it's not like I would say, hey, you got a chance, but it's on you. If you want this, and if you decide not to do these things, you just told me you didn't want it.
Right.
But it applies to. But just think about it. It applies to everything that you do.
Yeah,
100%.
Absolutely. And let me ask you this. So, I know with kids that I work with, and I have 2 daughters. The hardest thing that happens with me is my 2 daughters always say, "You realize you only have 2 daughters. Why everybody keep calling you daddy?" Do you have that same issue?
No, I don't have that same issue. Some of them look at me like that. You like, oh, crazy uncle. I said, yeah, that's probably true. And you know, the way I look at my time in Florida, I had a lot of nieces and nephews.
right. Yeah,
So I became not daddy, but probably old Uncle Dr. Key. Then we go talk to him. Yeah.
So like for John, for example, you know, he was big at Tennessee. And let's say you want to leave early. How many of the guys would come to you and say, you know, Doc, I mean, I don't know, should I go to the pros? Should I go one more year in college? Like, you know, what should I do? Did you have a lot of those conversations?
Yeah, we actually, in Florida, we had a panel, and where we had a professional sports counseling panel, and we worked with the coaches, because you got to have the coaches involved in that too, because the coaches are the people that are in contact with the NFL, and so. And then we could go get draft information. You present that and go like, hey, this is where you're projected to be. Coaches will be very involved in that. And then if someone decided like, hey, I grade out as a round 1 or 2, I had this, then that's for their family to decide. It's kind of like, okay, if you do this, here's information. You could go anywhere from here. So it's all about providing the right information to people. So what we do in that panel is providing with the information, talk to the coach will talk to scouts and say like, hey, you can go anywhere from this round to that round. Now, you know, if someone's projected to be, and John, you've been in the league, you know, if you're projected to be a 4th or 5th round pick, it's probably not in your best interest to go out early, because 4th or 5th round becomes free agent real quick or unsigned real quick. And so you got to give them the information, and you got to involve the people on your panel, and we'd have attorneys on the panel. And then if people decide to come out early, we would actually help them interview agents if they wanted to service also. And so we help them screen that. So those were the kind of services that we had put in place in Florida during the time I was there. And so you got to prevent information, because like I said, you don't want to get in a position to go like, hey, you better do this or this. Because now, you know, you may be forcing somebody into a decision that maybe they really didn't want to do, and they weren't really comfortable, and it doesn't come out right. And it's kind of like, you got to get them the information, and so they can digest the information, talk to their family, talk to people they can trust, so they can make a decision. But you know, just in general, if you're not projected to be, if the NFL or NBA, if they don't project you to be a 1st or 2nd round person, and you're going to get signing bonus money, it may be in your best interest to return. Yeah. Unless you may have a situation where you've had a chronic injury and you're like, hey, well, maybe I do need to come out before this like ruins my career later. So there's other factors. There's just no one thing, but it all depends upon giving people the right information, and then let them make their decision based upon what they believe is important to them and their family.
So Dr. King, so I'm gonna turn the page a little bit, because I know some of the fans just want to know a little bit about Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
You know, just to give them like what to expect as a coach. I mean, what do we get?
Very, very focused.
Yeah.
Focused. I mean, focused to. I mean, it's like laser focus.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like players are going to get on board. They need to get on board. He's going to laser focus.
Yeah.
But he can get people throughout his career focused. You know, I worry about him from a personal standpoint about he gets so focused as if he's learned how to step back for a minute, regroup, re-energize. But you can expect very detail oriented in terms of X's and O's, crosses and T's. I think he's the type of coach. I remember Hewlett Packard used to have a saying with computers, "What if we did this?"
Right.
And I believe he does that as a coach. I found him to be very supportive. We had a career development program and really pushing that career development program on all the athletes, on all the football team. In fact, he used to keep an accountability board. We call it an employability board. And basically in that factor, there'd be meetings with trainers, academic counselors, nutritionists, and basically would keep a grid to see if people were meeting their commitments. And on that board going into the team room, there was an employability factor. And they had 3 categories. You were unemployable, barely employable, or employable. And you could tell the people who weren't living up to their responsibilities, they were in the unemployable category. So they're gonna find somebody who's very focused, and he can get really narrowed in there. And then I was really happy to see him bring Coach Strong in as assistant head coach too. I just think that's a good lick too, in terms of dealing, understanding players' issues. But I think you're going to get a very organized, very detailed person, very passionate person about football.
That's it.
And
are you concerned about, because a lot of college coaches, they got that rah-rah, like, oh, that's not going to work in the NFL. Do you think he's going to have an issue transitioning at all?
I think he may look at that environment and he'll make some adjustments. Mm-hmm. And I just think he's a smart guy now. I mean, he's going to make adjustments. You look at kind of the things he's done through at different schools with different personnel, and doing things. Perfect example is like Chris, when he first came in, he had Chris Lee, and Urban kind of ran a different system before he came here. They required the quarterback to run a lot. Well, they kind of realized, well, that's not really Chris Leak's deal. That's more of a Tim Tebow thing. And what people forget, Chris Leak is the all-time passing leader at Florida for career yardage. Not Danny Werfel, not anybody else. It's Chris Leak. And so he tuned the system. So I think he'll be able to adjust as necessary. I think having Coach Strong there with him will help him making those adjustments that he needs to. I don't, you just don't know. I just think he's going to recognize he's probably in a little different environment. But we all know, no matter what, if your head coach has got to be focused and has got to be setting a tone about winning, and that's what's going to happen. He's going to be focused and he's going to set a tone about this is how we win.
All right.
I'm still in the accountability board, just to let you know. That's a great idea.
Accountability is
underperforming, performing, have a job. Like, that's craziness. Look at that.
Hey, you look at pro football. Yeah. You're either employable or you're not employable.
Right. Yeah.
There's no gray area.
There's no gray area. And I think in the pro situation, and someone used to always ask me if I coached again, would I coach again? I go like, hey, it would be high school to pro, because don't have to recruit. And it's kind of like, if you're in a high school, you're in the neighborhood, you can either play the kids who are in the neighborhood, they can either play the cat, and the pros, it's all, you can either play or you can't.
Yeah. That's it.
And if you can play and you don't want to play, then we can do something else. And
yes.
And it's kind of like, and so I think that might be better for her, because now you don't have to worry about recruiting. It's kind of like, now I'm evaluating talent. I'm just evaluating talent, working with general manager. I'm evaluating talent. Who can play, who can't. What can my guys do? Do I need to tweak with what I think to what my players can do? Yeah. And, I just think a classic example is how they kind of tweak things after about 2 or 3 games with Chris Leak and say, like, no, we need to let him throw the ball. Wow. And so I think he's very good at looking at evaluating talent and putting talent in the right spot. And
what about Coach Strong? Because a lot of people don't know about, like, Jack can contest, like, the position players. No one hears about position players, position coaches much. What about him? Tell us more so we can get to know him a little better.
Charlie's a solid guy. I mean, he had really good relationships with the players, and he had this kind of style that he'd get on your case, but it was kind of like, he's getting on my case, but I'm not getting mad at him because he's right. It's kind of a hard way it's kind of hard to understand. And but in both of Charlie's stints here in Florida, when he was with Coach Spurrier and with Coach Meyer, all the players respected him. And I think they respected him, one, because he was knowledgeable, one, because I think he truly expressed he cared about them as people. And I don't care what level you're on or what kind of organization you're in. When you're working with somebody, you want to work with somebody or for somebody who cares more than about, okay, this is your job, so you better do it. Because it's more than that. It's more than that. And I think Charlie got to understand the players. They knew him. He knew about their families. I mean, he's going to get to know the pro players, probably not like the college players, but I think that's important. I think that ingredient is important at any level, that they can develop a rapport and a trust level with their assistant coach. And I think the players are going to respect Charlie, and Charlie's going to develop a trust level with him. He's not going to lie to him. He's going to give it to him straight. But he's going to, he's going to be firm but direct in such a way that won't be offensive. Right. And I think because, or personalize it, it's kind of like, no, man, we got to do things this way, and this is how we got to do it. So I think that's going to be, I think the players there are really going to enjoy working with Coach Strong, and I think Coach Meyer is definitely going to help get them laser focused on excellence.
Wow.
And that's Charlie's thing. Because one thing that Coach Meyer possesses is that he has a laser focus.
Okay,
and then Charlie is very analytical also, but he's very good one-on-one with players. Like I said, our players trust Coach Strong. And both times he was here.
It seems that
I trust my son with Coach Strong.
It seems that Urban Meyer has surrounded himself so far with the right people. But one thing I've noticed is he didn't surround them with all yes guys. He surrounded them with guys that have the passion. Did I hit that right on the button?
Oh yeah, he just doesn't want somebody to go, yeah. What do you think? I mean, and when you look at leadership and management, I think the best thing you do, you got to get people who compliment you, who can address the things that the weaknesses that you have. And yes. I think he's been in the game long enough. I think he understands exactly what his strengths and weaknesses are, and he's brought people around him that will supplement his weaknesses. I mean, that's just basic management leadership 101. It's kind of going like, I want somebody to tell me what they actually think. I don't want anybody to tell me what I want to hear. I may not like what you have to say, but I may disagree with you, but sometimes I need to hear that so we can have a healthy discussion about the disagreement and why we disagree. I mean, right. That's all in any healthy organizations. You get to the point where everybody's saying, well, yeah, we should do it this way, and all of a sudden everybody catches you and you don't get any better. You keep doing the same things you keep doing the same thing over and over every year, and all of a sudden you go from 12 to 2, and now you're looking at, hey, what happened? We 5-11. And if you surround yourself with people who are singularly thinking, who just think like you, and most people are scared of bringing people who might think a little different, be a little different than them. But it's a basic thing. I mean, I can't get any synergistic thinking or creative thinking unless I bring in different minds, because everybody sees things from a different perspective.
Yes.
And
people
so
are scared to do that though too, because they don't want to lose their job. If I'm the head coach and I bring John and he's just as good as me, John might replace me, if anything goes bad. So I think that's too with the coaching is they don't want to have, some rather have yes men because they're worried about being replaced themselves.
Yeah, and that's too bad. And you know what happens to those folks? They end up getting replaced. Replaced is a nice word for fired. They end up getting fired. So, you can't. You got to bring somebody. You might share a general philosophy about like, okay, hey, we want to be a run first team, and we want to be, you might share some general things, but then you got to be open to the fact like, okay, what we're doing is not working, so we need to change this, and you need to be able to not only have tough conversations, but you need to be able to receive tough conversations, and I believe Urban is not opposed to hearing a tough conversation. Like, hey, Coach, I don't agree. I think we should do this. I don't think he has any problem with that at all.
Hey,
that will make him great.
So Jacksonville, y'all have heard it. Are y'all ready for the season to come up? I'm just letting you know. You done heard it from the man himself.
We ready.
But everybody is strong. I mean, hey, he got me fired up already because I know the mentality, and now we know the mentality of Urban Miami Strong. So now they gotta they go put it.
I see a twinkle in your eye, John. I see a twinkle in your eye. I can tell you're excited. You love to play for him.
John got his play, man. John ready to play again.
one, like you said, one play.
One good play.
Hey, Dr. Keith, man, we really appreciate it. We thank you so much for coming on. And you got to come on again.
Hey, we'll be back on, man. Bring me back.
You got to come back.
Florida Tennessee game. We gotta have that rivalry.
I'll have all my gear on there. It'll be that real orange. It won't be that other orange.
See, we got to make sure we got him and some of the Gator fans. That's our goal to have for that game. We have some Tennessee and some Gator guys, and just to tell the story and how it was. Yeah. That's gonna be the day. But y'all, we got to get up out of here. I know people got to go feed the kids. Especially I do. So
all right.
So we just want to thank Dr. Keith, man, for coming out and giving us the inside. Man, it got deep. It got deep.
Yeah, laser focus, man.
I love this one. I'm gonna have to go back and look at this one again.
Laser focus.
Yeah, it was deep. It was deep. But like I said, JFL, Duval, we up out of here. Peace.
All right. Thank you.